Michael Flaherty, Chair of Government Operations, Lamantina. We are here today to discuss Docket 0105, a petition for a special law regarding an act relative to election nomination petitions in the city of Boston. The matter was sponsored by Mr. Walsh, January 11th of 2016. Presently, there are laws in place that limit the number of nomination papers a voter is allowed to sign. One nomination petition for office of mayor or district city councilor, and no more than 4 nomination papers for the office of city councilor at large. This home rule petition would allow a registered voter to sign as many nomination papers that they choose for candidates for office without limitation. As a point of reference, this home rule petition was actually initially filed back on December the 10th of 2014. We held a committee hearing on December the 1st, and that was a couple of weeks before the new city council was sworn in, and with a couple of new members coming in, they wanted the opportunity to learn a little bit about this home rule petition and to air some of their concerns. And so at that hearing, several concerns were discussed, current procedures and requirements that are currently in place, candidates' access to the ballot, and the possibility of increasing the number of signatures needed for district council seats. Interesting thing in Boston, district council seats usually is around, I think around, was it about 200? But some districts, depending on the previous presidential election, skews that a little bit. So some are higher or some are lower. So colleagues did express an interest in having a conversation with respect to having all the districts level, even with one another, but also talking about increasing those numbers as well. So, and I'm sure that that will be raised today as well. So joining us today on behalf of the administration, we see Election Commissioner Dion Irish and also Head Assistant Registrar Sabino Piemonte, both who know the election department and all the ins and outs like the back of the hand. If my colleagues would like to offer opening statement, they may do so. We can get right into it. So welcome, Dion and Sabino, and you guys have the floor to address this issue.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Not sure if this is working. Good afternoon, Chairman Flaherty, Councilors O'Malley and Lamantina, members of the public who are present in the council chambers or who are viewing at home. My name again is Dion Irish, the Commissioner of the Boston Election Department and Chairman of the Board of Election Commissioners. Thanks for inviting me to provide input on this important discussion about our municipal nomination petitions and removing the limitation that currently exists for candidates, particularly new candidates, in getting on the ballot. Mayor Walsh has certainly impressed upon me his desire for a thriving and vibrant democracy, and such a democracy is only possible when we increase access for voters and candidates. The mayor's sponsorship of this proposal demonstrates his commitment to easing access to the ballot, and I'm happy to provide testimony in support of docket number 0105. I would like to note for the record that we plan to file a modified version of this proposal. The only change that we're looking to effect is the effective date. The new language will propose that this process will be effective for the upcoming municipal elections if they're approved by April 19, 2017, which is the first day that we'll be issuing nomination papers. If it's approved after that date, then we'd like to see it become effective January 1st, 2018. As you stated, Councilor Flaherty, that the law currently restricts the ability to sign, a voter's ability to sign nomination papers for multiple candidates for particular municipal offices, meaning that in municipal elections, voters are only allowed to sign 1 nomination paper for a candidate for mayor, 1 nomination paper for a candidate for district councilor, and 1 nomination paper for as many as 4 city council at-large candidates. However, during state elections, voters are allowed to sign nomination papers for as many candidates as they choose. They can only sign once, but they can sign for as many as they choose who seek to be elected for the same position. Additionally, in other large communities in the Commonwealth, such as Lowell, Newton, Springfield, and Worcester, voters are allowed to sign nomination petitions for multiple candidates for a given office. This home rule petition would allow voters to sign nomination papers for as many candidates as they choose, providing the opportunity for more candidates to get on the ballot. This is not only beneficial to those who seek elected office, but also to voters who are always more energized when we have competitive races. Dating back to 2005, 49% of municipal offices were uncontested, Many argue that this has resulted in the lack of the desired voter participation, which is essential for a thriving democracy. In closing, I urge the members of the council to approve this legislation that I believe will increase candidate access to the ballot, afford voters with more choices, allow candidates to spend more time engaging voters while eliminating the race to City Hall practice of collecting and submitting nomination papers first. And it brings our nomination process in line with that of the state and a majority of Massachusetts municipalities. Thanks for affording me this opportunity. Sabino Pamonti and I, the Election Department's head registrar, will be here and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Dion, I guess the first question is sort of why is the proposal necessary? Because I'm been at this for a little while. I'm the longest serving council, and I don't recall any situation where someone has been sort of bumped off the ballot because they had signatures, or they were the fifth signature of four other at-large members. And I'll just speak at-large versus district. So I'm just kind of curious as to sort of why we need this, and are there any administrative benefits from your vantage point from running the election department, and are there any signature limitations at the state level? I know you referenced a couple of the municipalities, but so I guess kind of want to take it, so give me your thoughts on those questions.
Okay, I'll ask you to repeat the last part about limitations at the state office. If you don't
Yeah,
mind.
so are there any limitations right now? So if someone's running for state rep or for state senator, can they sign more than one paper?
Yes. Currently, if someone's running for state rep or state senator, a voter can sign as many nomination papers, for candidates, as many candidates as they would like. Just want to make sure it's clear for the record that you can't sign for a candidate more than once, but they can sign for multiple candidates for state rep and state senator positions.
And do both signatures count? Say, for example, say like Matt and I were running against each other for state rep, and Councilor Lamartina signs my papers and he signs Matt's papers. Does it matter if we get our papers into the Secretary of State first as to which signature Councilor Lamartina's signature counts for, or does it matter at the state level?
It doesn't matter on the state level. His signature would count for both of you.
Provided we run from the same party. That's a good
Same
point.
party
Yeah.
or independent.
All right. So the way it currently works right now at the council level, if you're running for district council, you can only sign one candidate, and if you're running at large, you cannot sign for more than four candidates. That would trigger sort of the race to the election department to get your signature in and to get it approved and stamped before the other, say the fifth signature or the second signature district council would be nullified.
That is correct.
And are you aware of any situation where someone has not been allowed access or to get on the ballot because their signature, you might have a little more historical perspective on it, but based on the best of your recollection, are you aware of any situation where someone's been bumped off because their signature didn't count because it was signature already counted for the candidate?
Qualified because they didn't meet the minimum threshold. I don't recall it being because of the fifth signature or the second signature for district, but that could play a big part in them gathering signatures.
And is there any administrative benefit by doing it this way? Does it make, I guess, approving signatures or approving certifying ballots, certifying the petitions for the ballots, does it make that easier or a smoother process, or are you still going to have to check to make sure they're a registered voter, make sure that that it's a legit ballot signature, correct?
I mean, the process still stays the same. You still have to check all the signatures until you meet your maximum requirement, which is for at large, for instance, 1,500 plus the 20%. Once we reach your maximum, we stop. The benefits will be that we may need to check less signatures for all the other candidates that are running for the same office.
Okay. And then there was section 4 here says the act shall take effect immediately upon passage. So this is a home rule petition that has to pass the council, mayor has to sign it, then has to go up to Beacon Hill. So the timeline of having it pass versus this next election, are they going to catch up with each other, or is there an amendment that you guys are considering?
Yes, there is an amendment. Just in the event that this does not get approved by April 19th, we'd like for it to be effective January 1st, 2018. But we're very confident that we can get this approved during the current window of time that we have.
Right, so April 19th of 17 is sort of the hard and fast deadline. for
April
passage.
19th of 17, yes.
Perfect.
And the reason for that date is that's the first day, and I just want to make a correction. That's the first day that you can come in and sign up to run for nomination. The first day the papers will be issued will be May 2nd. We want to make sure that the papers are reflective of this new law once it passes.
And so then if the council passes it and the mayor signs it, because it's a special law, it's not going up to Beacon Hill, it's going to stay here.
I believe it has to go up to Beacon
Yeah,
Hill.
it has to go up to Beacon Hill.
So if it goes up to Beacon Hill, then it needs to get a hearing and signed to a committee and all that stuff. So realistically, will that all happen between now and?
It's possible. We have some great intergovernmental relations folks who are working on this at the state level
Gotcha.
as well.
Okay. Council O'Malley, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Iris and Registrar Piemonte. Thank you and congratulations again on a wonderful, tough, crowded, obviously important presidential election. Your team just did wonderful job, and the city's proud of you. Listen, anything we can do to get more people interested and to provide better access to both would-be candidates and voters is an important thing. So obviously, I support this. One thing I talked about before, which I wanted to go back for, is sort of the uniformity here. If I have it right, it's no more than 200 signatures to run for district council. Some are less than that, in the 160s, 150s. It's 1,500 for council at large. That's correct, and 3,000 for mayor.
That's correct.
Okay. And as you know, you always say get 20% more in case things are illegible or whatever. And the difference between our system and the state is that there's no this is a nonpartisan preliminary and final election, so the pool is wider than it would be for a state legislative race. So, one thing I talked about before was if there are 9 districts in the city, if we were to take the number 3,000, which is the number of signatures you need to run for mayor, divided by 9, it would be 334. I think the purpose of this endeavor is to make it easier. So I guess I would counter and then suggest, and one thing that I think we should be thinking of is lowering the number of signatures it needs to run for mayor to 1,800, which would be the number 200 number of signatures a councilor leads multiplied by the number 9. So I just think there needs to be some uniformity in this, and I think that's one thing that we should discuss in the days ahead as we possibly take a vote on this issue. But obviously, I stand ready to do anything we can to make voting easier and running for office easier as well. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council. Chair recognizes City Council Sal Lamontina. We've also been joined by City Council Josh Zakem.
Thank you. Commissioner, thank you. Registrar, thank you. I want to echo Council O'Malley's. You did a great job in the last presidential election. So I appreciate that. I support this. Anything we could do to encourage more candidates to run into office, I think is a good thing. So municipal election, the nomination papers are out on May 1st,
May 2nd,
May 2nd, and they are due back in
May 23rd.
23rd. So you have less than a month to get your signatures in?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And state elections?
State elections are not until next January or February. Papers will come out.
So usually, do they have 3 weeks or they have more than 3 weeks?
They have longer.
Okay, and why do they have longer? It's just the system.
That's the way their bylaws are set.
So do you think if we had a longer time that we would be able to encourage more candidates?
Possibility.
Possibly.
Are there more races there than here, I guess?
Yes.
No, there's more. Okay. When's the primary this year?
Preliminary is September 26th.
It's late this year. Okay. And the final?
November 7th.
November 7th. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready to vote on this.
Thank you, Council Lamontina. Chair recognizes City Council Josh Zakem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for being late. I do just want to, maybe this was covered already, but I just want to be clear. This is only changing that voters can sign as many petitions as they are. That's the only element. I know Council Lamontina was talking about timelines and everything else. That's not part of this.
No.
It's 3 week period still. And
No, this is just about how many nomination papers a voter can sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other thoughts from Commissioner?
Yeah, just want to respond to the suggestion about lowering the criteria for mayor. Giving this, this is not really about. I don't want it to be perceived as making this easier for the mayor, because this is certainly not what this legislation is about. It's about easing access to the ballot for everyone. So I think the 3,000 signature. I see no reason for us to really change that, but I do appreciate the suggestion.
Well, I think the purpose which we all share is to make it easier for candidates to run for office. It has nothing to do with mayor, council at large, district council. So my whole point is that there's no rhyme or reason between a candidate for mayor needing 3,000 signatures and a district councilor needing 200 signatures. So rather than increase the district councilors to have some sort of a math equation to get that number, which would be divided by 9 or multiplied by 9, why not we take the spirit of this one step further to make it easier, and the number 1,800 I think is an appropriate one. It still creates a threshold for a candidate, while at the same time it was derived from the mathematics by multiplying the number 200 times 9, and fulfills the goal of this, which is to make it easier for more candidates.
Thank you, and I do appreciate that. I just want to reiterate that the primary purpose of this piece of legislation is to make it easier and make our current process consistent with with state offices and other municipalities in terms of the numbers of candidates that a voter could support to get on the ballot. But like I said, I do appreciate it, and we'll take that.
Okay, well
take note of
that my amendment or potential amendment goes directly to that in terms of making it easier and makes it consistent, which I would argue it isn't when we derive those numbers right now.
And the number of signatures for state rep and for state senate what are they?
The state rep is 150, and
150?
the state senator is 300.
300. And has district always been 200 for just about everybody, but then drops under 200 for a couple of districts? What are the districts that require less than 200, and what's it going to be this year compared to previous years?
At this moment, District 8 needs 195 minimum, and District 9 needs 188 minimum. And the way those numbers are derived, it's 2% of the previous turnout in the mayoral race. And if you take in consideration 2013 was a pretty well-attended election, and that's why most of the districts don't fall in that under 200 mark.
And during your tenure, has the district signatures moved up or down, and have the at-large, I think the at-large have moved it over
The
time?
at-large, I believe, is the only one that moved up, and it went from 500 to 1,500.
And then nothing with district, they've always stayed
District
at that
is
2%?
Exactly, that 2% mark, and then the ceiling is 200.
And has mayoral ever moved during your tenure?
No.
It's always been 3,000?
3,000.
Any questions on number of signatures, my colleagues?
I'm all set.
Anybody else? Okay, and then the effective date, the hope is to try to have everything resolved by the 19th. If not, then looking for a January 1st of 18.
That's correct.
If there's no other questions, I'll transition to public testimony. I see folks in the gallery. If
Just-
there's anyone here, go ahead.
Just one more question from a viewer at home. So if you're running for city council, is nonpartisan, you could get Democrats and Republicans to sign your nomination papers.
Democrat, Republicans, unenrolled, and political designations. Any registered voter in the city can
To
sign.
sign your, thank you.
Correct.
Anyone wishing to offer public testimony at this time may do so now. Hold your peace, seeing and hearing no desire to do so, that will conclude the public testimony part of it. So if there's any final comments from the commissioner of Sabino, you're welcome to address the floor.
Good.
No, thank you.
Very good. My colleagues, any other questions from my colleagues? Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, with respect to docket 0105, petition for a special law and act relative to election nomination petitions of the city of Boston, the Committee on Government Operations is adjourned.